All right. We're back. Good evening. Good morning. I'm not sure when you guys will be watching this episode, but this is going to be a really good one. Important, at least to me, it's an important episode. Because I'm going to show you two things. Yes, only two things, but boy, are they amazing things. Since the last time I spoke to you guys, a lot has happened. Oh my gosh. Yesterday, at a baseball field, maybe 3 miles from my house, some guy from Honduras attacks a 14-year-old girl, stabbed her in her hand with a butcher knife, and took off in the woods, which sparked a manhunt like I've never seen, in person. My God, the cops. There were hundreds. It seemed like hundreds of police from all different surrounding towns. This is a little, Lowell, Indiana is a small Indiana town. We're an hour from Chicago, give or take. But it's a little town, and that kind of stuff, it does not happen in a place like this. So it was a shock, number one. And that just, like I said, sparked a manhunt like I've never seen before. And all night I'd hear the helicopters, because they were thinking he was within I would say a 3-mile perimeter of basically my house. Like this, the surrounding area right where I live, it's all wooded here. And man, all night helicopters, all morning helicopters. They reassembled 100 officers this morning. I have friends in the police force, and they were giving me info as it was happening. And they finally got him today around 3:45 p.m. And crazy, 14 years old, though. The girl, she's okay. Oh, my God. She's all right. But what a horrific experience for a young girl to go through that. And the mother attacked him, and he went at her with the butcher knife, And there wasn't many people around the baseball field where they were standing, unfortunately. Across the field, there were, there were probably 50 or 60 people over by the bleachers. But nobody really could tell what the hell was going on across the field where these people were. Anyway, so yeah, that's been going on in local news, and Facebook's been exploding with updates. But here we are. And yes, I have a Karloff Frankenstein in front of me. If you guys know anything about my collecting past or my love for collecting, you know that vintage Frankenstein monster masks are like top of the list for me. People say, what's your favorite mask? They'll see all these masks here. And I'm like, I don't know. That's a pretty impossible question to answer. That's like asking me what my favorite horror film is. Like, oh God, can I pick 25 of them? Because it's so hard. But when it comes to favorites, the vintage Frankensteins, Frankenstein monsters, Frankensteins in those glass cases over there, that's the stuff I love. Some of the stuff I love the most. Because Pat Newman was sculpting them in the 60s for Dompo Studios. A master sculptor she was. Sculpted most of the calendar masks of the era. When Vern Langdon was there, coming up with the idea to make the calendar masks in 65 and 66. So that being said, they really look like the Frankenstein monster. It doesn't look like some inferior company took a whack at making a Karloff, and it's like, I could tell it's the Frankenstein monster, but these look like him, And they're quite rare. I did videos recently saying how the 1983 masks, I said, those of you out there that can't get your hands on stuff like this, can't afford stuff like this, start going after the 83s, because the 83s are still hitting eBay, but not like they were. You know, I've noticed them drying up out there. And those are masks that can be bought, you know, usually in the 200 to 400 range. Now they're probably climbing though. Here's an 83 right here. You know, we've went over all this stuff in previous videos, so I'm not going to get into differences and whatnot, but you know, these are still out there. Probably not as nice as this one, but you know, if you're looking for vintage Frankenstein masks, that's probably the easiest one to get your hands on, is an 83 if you want a really nice Karloff without breaking the bank. You know, they did shrink up a little bit in ways. This is a little smaller than this one. It may be very hard to tell, but they kind of just, in my opinion, they lost a generation. The heads are getting rounder on top. You know, you don't have that nice flat top that I love on Karloffs. There's some people out there that don't like that. There's some photos from the film where his head isn't completely flat at times. But this to me is awesome. So back to the Don post. So back to vintage Karloffs. The thing I scored this week surfaced on eBay about 5 or 6 days ago. Gentleman by the name of James just showed up out of nowhere in one of the groups and says, "Hey," I think he said, "Hey, I've got this vintage Frankenstein mask, and you know what's something like this worth?" And luckily other people in the hobby didn't see that like to yell at people that show up like that, and they'll go, "It's worth whatever someone's gonna pay for it," you know. And you're just like, honestly, just I want to know what my mask is worth, you know. It's mine. I you can't yell at people like that, you know. They legitimately, this guy had this mask since he was a kid, you know, and he's like, "Man, I've had this my whole life. Wonder what it's worth." Who can argue someone asking that? Get out of here! God, go scratch somewhere else. So anyway, Eric Holmquist texts me as soon as the ad popped up. Bing! He goes, "Dude, here, look, go, check it out. You probably want this one." And I'm like, oh my God. As soon as I seen the photos, I said, that's a 73 Karloff. I looked at it for like 2 minutes. I instantly liked the picture, and I commented within, I don't know, a minute, or, you know, maybe 4 minutes, 5 minutes. And I said, "Hey," to James, the owner of this is not it. This is my old one. Okay. I said, "Hey, I'm a big collector. I will offer very strong on this mask. If you want to sell it, I will offer you basically what that thing is worth, in my opinion." And my opinion's a lot different than a guy that doesn't want to pay anything near what I would pay for it. There's guys in the hobby that think everything should be $10, you know, and they're not going to offer James what I offered him on this, you know. I was like, man, I want that. I want to go after it. Because mine, when I got my 73, the eye holes were cut out. Remember that? If you look at the old videos and stuff, I did a whole restoration process on this one with the hands. The hands were pancakes. They were hard as a rock. And me and Maskahuna together brought them back into shape, foam filled everything. I painted them to match the mask. And that's a whole other story. But as soon as I seen James's copy, I go, that's a 73. There were dead giveaways to me. The center part in the hairline, for instance, which they quit doing around 76, okay? Yeah, 75. I would say 1975, they stopped that. See that center part, that horizontal way of doing the hair? In 76, they were doing the spiraled hair. And there are some vintage copy Frankensteins that have different hair I've seen where they don't have the part. But I would say 90% of the ones I've ever seen have this. From 1967 to 1975-ish. Because I have masks that all fall in those dates, and they all have that, okay? And that's something I learned from Mask Kahuna. I didn't really know years ago you can date a mask by the way the hair's glued onto it, you know? It's like, man. He's taught me so much over the years, and I owe a lot of my knowledge to him. You know, guys started arguing, no, it's probably an 87. It's probably, I'm like, no. That's an 80, that's a 73. I was driving, at first I said it was a 76 because I was driving and I wasn't thinking and I'm freaking out like there's a vintage Frankenstein, but it was a 73. I corrected that. I go, no, not 76. And it has, you know, the rub out they used, you could see that the blue tones in it, like the baby blue. I would love to know, James, if you see this video, I'm gonna have a couple questions for you, okay? This had all the, James's copy had all the characteristics this one did. The part in the hair, the short neck, and this real straight sideburn that just comes straight down. It's very straight here, and there's no mistaking it, especially the colors of the rub out, the paint colors. But yeah, 73 for sure. So anyway, I comment like, hey, I'll offer you strong on that. And you know, if I say that in public comment, I'm actually telling the truth, you know. But there were people in there that just didn't want me having this mask, and they weren't gonna buy it, but they tried all they could to get him to put on eBay. And I'm like, eBay is not what it used to be. I hate eBay now, even though I still sell on there. Yeah, they take 13% of your profit. It's like if you're a seller, you have hardly any rights anymore. You can't leave negative feedback anymore on bidders. It sucks. But anyway, in the midst of me getting angry at, not at James, but other people in this hobby, James sent me a message, and because I was real upfront with him, like, this is what you got, here's mine. It had holes in the eyes, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I told him the whole thing behind it. And on top of me coming up with a price, I know there's other guys in the hobby that were probably sending him offers. Right off the top, I'm like, it's got to be a fat, good offer for both of us, though, you know? I mean, I'm buying it through photos, and if you're ever buying a mask that's vintage like this, and it's going to be a pricey deal, ask the seller questions, you know. I went and asked him, I said, is there any really hard areas on it, like where it's brittle like plastic? Because I've made the mistake years ago as a novice collector going nuts trying to nab something on eBay that was a buy it now before anyone else could get it. You know, like, oh, and it's some ridiculous price, and it shows up here hard as a rock, you know, and you're like, God, if you just would have asked one question, you know. So I asked him, and he said, yeah, he goes, actually, about the lower neck, you know, within 3/4 of an inch or so is brittle down here, but it's not breaking off or nothing. There's some fine crazing going on, because the rest of it is somewhat soft, you know. It's not not hardening everywhere. And I'm like, fair enough, that's all I really need to hear, because I got good pictures of it. And he actually came back to me after all the eBay comments, and he said, listen, if I sell this thing, I want it to go to a collector. Like, you know, I showed him pictures of the room, you know, some pictures. And he's like, if I sell it, I'll let you know, because I want it to go to a real collector. I said, man, there's guys that are going to try to flip it. There's guys that'll buy it, sell it in 2 months after they show it off. Like, I want that thing in this collection, you know. So I think he slept on it for less than a week and messaged me back. And he's like, I will take your offer. And I'm like, wow, like, holy cow. And that was so exciting. I'm going to get the mask out. Let's put this 83 away. And we can check these out side by side. And they're going to look a little different because the paint, you know, the paint finishes wear differently depending on where this mask was all its life. And if James was, you know, wearing his a lot when he was younger, keeping it in a closet, you know, you don't know where this stuff is stored all these years. And some of the colors are better than the next mask. But you'll be able to tell similarities when I show them to you, okay? The good thing about what James did, though, he stored it on a old Quaker Oats tube, which was amazing. I think he probably felt it getting, hardening on the edges over the years underneath here, and said, I better do something because I don't think this thing's going to be around forever if I don't. So look at that, guys. This is so cool. It's one thing to see these in photos, and you're like, man, it looks so neat. But when that thing showed up in the mail, and I opened that box, I go, oh my God, there it is. One thing I did ask of James, because I've never seen the guy in my life. He showed up in the groups, and there's constant scammers showing up in our Facebook groups with pictures of rare masks, and 9 times out of 10 they'll say, that's Rudy's mask, you scammer. They don't know that I'm in the room and they're using my pictures to scam everybody, or other friends of mine's collection photos. And I looked at his Facebook, usually you can tell if someone has a Facebook page and they only have 2 friends and they're in some weird country. You're like, I don't think this is a real account. But I looked at his Facebook profile, went way back, he's a real person. I can tell it's a real guy. And I said, can you do me one favor? Can you write down your name on a piece of paper next to the mask, so I know the mask is at least I'll know it's in his possession. Not to saying you could do that and some guy sends you a block of wood in the mail, after you pay him. That's happened many times. People have gotten, screwed over badly. But I said, I just said, can you do that for me, just because all this stuff's going on in our hobby? And he gladly did that. So I go, okay. Gave him my FedEx number, and boy, did he pack this thing so well. That's one thing with a mask in this condition. It's you got to handle this with great care. And I've seen people just throw them in a box where they're bouncing around across the country, or they'll take it and try to get, so they're paying the cheapest amount to ship it on their end, and it's in a flat box, and you're like, this better not be this Frankenstein mask in this flat box. And you pull it out and you're just like, bleh. He packaged this thing so well. I said, I don't care what the charges are going to be on my account. I will pay to ship this in an oversized box. Just please do what you can to stuff him, etc. And boy, did he do one of the best shipping jobs I've seen in a long time. People were even commenting when I put the photos in my group. I go, look what arrived. And they're like, man, he really packed it well. I go, yep. So look at this sucker. Right away, obviously, you could tell it's got that real short neck. Keep in mind, I'm going to move the hands so they're not a distraction here, okay? Those are the 75, 76 hands sculpted by Bill Malone. All right. Lots of discoloration on James's copy. But it's a full mask. There's no missing parts. There's no chunks missing. Do you see the similarities in this real squared type of sideburn area here? Do you see the blue hues in the rub out that were in his copy as well? Let's bring the camera closer. Let's look at the tops of the heads. See that, guys? You've got the horizontal parts on both of those babies. You got the same color rub out on both, but James's is definitely worn out a lot more than this copy. However, his eyes are intact, and this was, you could see where it was cut out, and I faked it. This one was cut out even worse here. See that? I faked this by taking a Karloff mold and molding the eyes and making inserts from behind, just so you can get those Karloff eyes, the illusion of it back in this mask, and that definitely made this thing look 10 times better. But thank goodness on James's copy, the eyes are definitely intact, uncut, and that is awesome. So what I plan on doing, I told him I'm going to do what I can to carefully, I'm going to carefully take all the stuffing in the tube out of this thing. Probably rest him on top of his flat head upside down. I'm going to assess the whole neck area and take a real good look at the cracks. You know, like there's some fine little cracks under here, which is not bad for a mask this old. You know, Karloffs were not the thickest pulls in the world. That's thin rubber. For them to, that's why they can be so pricey and so rare, because they were so, you know, they weren't built to last. That's for damn sure. I'm going to do that. I'm going to reinforce the neck from inside, probably using thick black Gorilla Tape. I'll probably video all this stuff, you guys. But this neck needs reinforcing before this thing even gets, you know, foam filled. There's a lot of work to do on the inside of this mask. You do not want any cracks where foam could start seeping out during the filling process, you know. The shape of the mask is beautiful. Like, I really dig the shape of it. I think I may be able to, you know, depending on how he's stuffed, his chin might drop a little bit and get that more slender look in his face, because he's definitely pliable. He's not hard as a rock, which is awesome. But this sucker needs to be foam filled, and you know, there's little fine things in there, but nothing bad that I see at all. On top of that, carefully try to glue down the loose strands of hair with the vintage barge cement that they used on the old Frankensteins back in the day. You can see remnants here where it was a sloppy hair job on this copy, you know. That's really bad. That probably shouldn't have left the factory like that, unless that could have been some kid trying to glue the hair down back in the 70s. But, you know, I cannot complain one bit. This thing is in great shape. I don't mind the discoloration. It just has that patina where you could tell it's a really old Karloff. And no doubt in my mind that it falls in that 1973 era of Frankenstein. What I want to bring up is, yes, we look at characteristics of masks to date them, like the hairlines, the way the hair was laid on, the rub outs, the length of the neck. Some older copies have longer necks. Later copies have longer necks, you know, but these were really short. But if you're ever dealing with something like this, and if you're ever buying something like this from someone who's the original owner, James is the original owner of this mask, had it since he was a kid. I think he's my age, a little older than me. I was born in 72, but I simply said, hey, do you remember when you got the mask? Because these little clues help lock in all the stuff I just told you guys. Like, well, I told you all the knowledge I've learned on how to date this particular copy. But when I asked him, I said, do you know when you got it? Can you remember? When was that? And sometimes when people are kids, they're like, I don't know. I got it when I think I was 10. I think I was 12. He just rattled off instantly. I got it December 1973 for Christmas. And I was like, bingo. 1973. His parents bought this brand new for him. So that really solidifies my guess that this is a 1973 Karloff. And I didn't want to get too weird, James, but I was going to ask. The next question I wanted to ask was, do you have any pictures of you wearing it back then? Not to be a weirdo, but in this hobby, we love seeing old photos of someone with a mask, especially the mask in this room. I've got old photographs and Polaroids upstairs from the 70s and 80s where you could see the mask and it looks brand new and you're like, man, what a cool photo. If you ever run across any pictures, where this is sitting somewhere or by the Christmas tree or you're wearing it on Halloween in the 70s, man, please, if you don't mind, you know, I would love to see that. Especially to see what this mask looked like when it was brand new. This I found out in the field collecting, you know, out in Michigan. This popped up in a box of masks at someone's house in their basement. No photos. Like, we know these are basically 73 Karloffs, but I don't know what this thing looked like brand spanking new. There were no beautiful catalog photos, you know, from back then. You had one little image you'd see on catalog sheets, but it's not like today where you have these beautiful full color photos. So to see this thing brand new in some old picture would be really cool, just to see how much blue it had on it, you know, or what that's. This is old. This brown is the latex rubber aging, okay? Back then they used the actual color of the rubber for part of the rub and left it natural, and then rubbed the color. So some of the skin tone was the actual latex rubber color. And that also, I guess this basically is absence of paint, and that was raw latex, which looked more skin color at the time, not brown like it is here when it's aged. So that definitely aged, and it's got that patina, we call it. So man, yeah, James, if you happen to find a photo or two, that would be really cool, to see this thing looking fresh, you know. When I dig into this thing, I will start, you know, when I unpack him, I may unpack him on the video tonight just to see what he looks like inside. I just don't know how long it's going to be before I can get to filling this thing. So I want to keep him as protected as possible. But man, look at that. Let's look at these again. The paint on this one was pretty great. None of this is touched up. This was all original, with the exception of what I painted on those eye inserts. I matched that blue in there. And the rest is all original paint, you know. And some didn't get as much paint as the next, or some were played with a lot more, and not just on Halloween. So they all worn differently, you know. So damn cool. What do you guys think of this thing? What else? There are little things I see in the mold, like a little bubble over the eyelid right there. You can see a larger portion of it there. Similarities in the castings, you know, in the corner of the eye. You can start studying things like that just to see if they came out of the same mold, you know. But I cannot be any happier with the transaction, with the mask. Based on James's pictures, it's exactly what I thought it would be. I didn't think it would show up, you know, and he was very honest with his description, and I didn't think there'd be major problems at all. And it's awesome. Look, he even took the time to stuff it under that neck. Thank God, you know, he went and said, I better protect this because it's firming up, you know. Everyone's like, does it have the UPC? Does it have a UPC stamp? Does it have a UPC stamp? So UPC stamps on some old masks were rubber. On others, this one I was 90% sure it did not have the UPC, which would be a little tiny UPC this big, almost embossed in the rubber that kind of goes across the split. Oh, actually, it's got it right here. So it did have it. This one I swore did not have it. This is where everyone's going, aha, you don't know what you're talking about. Because I said, mine don't have it. Let's see. I don't remember. Well, goddamn. Yeah, it does. Dude, I don't remember. See? Yeah, real tiny. UPC right there. Copyright UPC. Universal Pictures. So I was wrong. I was like, no, mine don't have it. But I was thinking of a bigger one up here, like I've seen them across the center. I forgot about the tiny little one there. My mole man, one of my mole people had a big old rubber stamp of it, you know. I knew this did not have that at all. But it had that little, so they both have the micro UPC. You'll see on the rubber room, they say most had it. Most. They didn't say all of them had it. So that was my argument the other day. I go, it said most do. I was so sure that I go, 73s don't have it. I probably looked at the back of this thing twice in the past 6 years, you know. Sorry, those of you I was arguing with, but hey, I admit when I'm wrong. Yeah, look at that. So cool. So I'm going to bring out the late 60s Karloff and put it in the lineup just to show you guys, because I'm talking about short necks and long necks, right? Kind of like a bottle of beer. So now comes this is my baby. My baby back. Look at that. Holy cow. That, to me, if I had to pick 5 masks and go live on an island forever, this would probably be one of them. My 69 Karloff. Talk about rare and gorgeous. So take note of that longer neck in the late 60s, okay? Take note of the size. He's a little bit bigger, especially you know, it's gonna be very hard on this video to tell that, but that's a massive big old Frankenstein. Once again, it has the horizontal glue line here, the way they put the hair on. Like I said, that started around 1967. I do know where a real deal calendar Glenn Strange is, from 66, 65, 66. I need to go study that mask and see if it has that. You know, my Kleckenstein has that. We were told those masks were made in 68. The guy that had them and sold them to me and Monster Bob told us that. Despite people out there crying that they were 90s recasts, it has that old style hair that nobody in the 90s was doing. And anyway, yes, you'll see here the hair, you know, this hair comes straight down. This hair is going this way, like they glued it on this way. See that? Like if you were to comb it, you'd comb it this way. These you would comb straight down, because they took the hair and went straight down on these copies, but here it's put on sideways. So you start learning these things when looking at vintage copies and starting to compare them and compare things. And obviously the colors of the late 60s Karloffs were a lot different, which I love. I love the old gray versions like that, the big gray Karloff Frankensteins with the big red scar. They did some that were, to my knowledge, greenish, like weird greens. Yes, this guy is cool. James, you are a stand-up guy. You are a trustworthy salesman. And believe me, I've been in a lot of situations like that where I have backed out and said, you know what? Something's not right. This guy's, you know, it seems shady, whatever. I did not feel 1 ounce of that dealing with James. And so, yeah, thank you again. James, he's in a very good home. If anybody's going to love this mask and take care of it, it's me. I will restore him to the best of my abilities, which is pretty damn good, and get him whipped into shape and foam filled so he's preserved and hopefully can live on for another 50 years, you know? So awesome. Just so cool. I could not wait to get home today and film this guy, you know? Maybe his left eye, I can warm it up a little bit and maybe move it slightly and close that hole a little bit. See, in time, especially James, you never even knew this hobby was out here probably until you started researching your old mask. One thing people don't realize that are not around this hobby is a vintage rubber mask like this, if it was not stuffed with newspaper, solid. Like you take a mask and you stuff it solid if you're going to store it for long term, for many years, because gravity literally takes this rubber face and just starts pulling it, and these eye holes start drooping and getting bigger. The whole face can start melting. You know, gravity just pulls it, and stuffing them properly really helps prevent that, especially if a mask is going to be sitting somewhere for decades, which this one has. When I got this one in my hands, it was not foam filled. Here's an example of what the foam filling is. This whole mask is now solid with foam. See that? And that helps preserve this thing from gravity. It helps it, because then they start cracking. If this thing wasn't stuffed properly and kept in the best conditions you've kept it in, you know, you had to have kept this in a pretty darn good spot where it wasn't too dry or too humid. It would have started stretching, and right here at this bridge of this nose, it'll just go and split right there. That's the first place. So that is amazing that there's no split there, no split on either of these. I have an 83 upstairs where there's a pretty good split that I have to fix, and foam filling will prevent that from happening in the next 3 years, 2 or 3 years. It's going to happen if you don't take the precautions to get it filled. And basically, I'm not restoring it. I'm doing restoration tips to it. Like, I'm going to try to get the hair nice and glued down. I'm going to try to get his shape better and reinforce the neck and all that before he's foam filled. So notice how careful I'm moving him, you know. That is old latex rubber. This one's filled. He's not in too bad a shape, so not in really any danger of being brittle. But awesome. And another thing, this is the same exact hair. That is the same material on both masks. You can't get too many more similarities than that, you know. And to tie it all together, James told me, yeah, I got it Christmas of '73. Like, that just ties in all of this stuff. So, all right. Now I'm going to show you guys something. Remember I was talking about the good old Victim? The good old rare Distortions Unlimited Victim? The first copy to ever surface, right here, guys. Well, guess what? I know where another one is. Yes. I know where another one is, and it's bald, it has no hair. A guy I know owns it, and it may be coming up for sale. Oh, yeah. So, keep that in mind, those of you that want one of those bad. However, we're still going to be on the subject of Distortions Unlimited right now, because guess what? This is crazy. Some of the Distortions guys are going nuts because they can't believe what I have pulled off in less than a month. In less than 1 month, I have scored 2 of the rarest Distortions props ever made. Back to back. Back to back within 2 weeks of each other. Yes, I have to move these beautiful Frankenstein monsters to show you what I got. You guys that watched that lengthy video where I was talking about the good old days of Fangoria magazine and the good old ads on the back of them or on the inside covers by Don Post, Death Studios, Distortions Unlimited. As a kid, this is what we would stare at going, oh my God, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that, but I have no money. And it turns into a lifelong thing like, oh my God, I would still love to get those masks. And here they are today in this collection. So, I showed you this 2 videos ago. We went over this. I talked about the Victim being on this ad. And that's the first time I've ever seen it. Now, there's another prop that Distortions made that is equally as rare, I would say. Just about as rare as that dead half corpse right there. The good old Nightmares series came out in around '87, Fangoria magazine, and this Nightmares series of props and things around the same time, could have been within a year later, they came out with another crazy prop that was much larger than this guy. Not as gory, but I will tell you this, I would say it's just as rare as that thing. And I scored one, and he's in the other room. I'm going to have to carry him in here and show you, because he's not going to fit on top of this podium. Hold on. Corpse coming through. Oh, yeah, baby. We got to work fast because he wants to fall. Yes, that is the Corpse. Distortions Unlimited. Another really rare prop from the late 80s. Good old Ed Edmonds produced this sucker and sold it through little ads like you saw on the back of that Fangoria magazine. I've got the original ad photo where it was like that on this green background. Once again, I never realized how rare these things were. The Corpse and the good old Victim here. But these are Darren Fowler, who is one of the top distortions collectors in the world, good friend of mine, told me, I think he's only seen one of these. I can't remember where he saw it. Could have been at Caulfield's magic shop, costume shop. Is it Caulfield's or Kentucky maybe? But that is how rare this thing is. And I don't know if it's because they didn't sell many. I don't know if it's because they rotted away. My friend that owned the Corpse, my friend that owned the Victim had the Corpse, and he goes, hey, I also have the Corpse. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Still had the original shipping box with it. It was in the box, so his paint, you know, is beautiful. He kept this thing packed away, not out in the elements. I'm actually gonna, he's about, you know, his head's cocked, but he's got to be 5 feet tall. Easy 5 foot. I'm 6'4", so he's not as tall as I am, but we can definitely put him like this for now. At least he's got somewhere to lay, but isn't that crazy? So those of you that probably have never seen one before, this is what he looks like. And his body's all twisted, and at the time, Ed would build you a wooden coffin if you wanted. He would build you a wooden freaking coffin to display this guy in. And that is just even cooler that you could have got that from Ed and the boys at Distortions. What my friend that owned this also has a wooden coffin he built that I got to go pick up at some point. And it's got to be 6'5", this coffin. I could definitely squeeze into it. A really nice wooden coffin that he gave me for free. He goes, you get the prop, you could take the coffin. I'm like, oh my God. I'm trying to make room in this place, and I keep getting all kinds of weird large things coming in. But I had to show you this amazing prop because you may have never seen one before. So once again, there is great stuff coming from Jordu Shell that I had him paint up vintage style, vintage Weirdum style. Weirdum being the masks Jordu was making in the mid 80s at the age of 17, 18. Now Jordu's one of the top sculptors and creature creators in the whole hobby and beyond. And but I've got the early stuff of his, and I had him paint some up just like the old days, so I cannot wait till I get back here. That's why we don't have the Jordu episode just yet, so stay tuned on that. Anyway, back to, oh, did we talk about wait a minute, God, I'm going nuts. Like, I can't remember some of the stuff I showed you in the last video. You know, there's been manhunts going on and crazy shit. Guys, I think I'm losing my marbles because I swore I told you about this mask that is in my hand down here. Remember when we were looking at the Victim a couple videos ago, the debut video for the Victim? I said on that 1987 ad there was another awesome mask coming from that lineup. Remember I said there's another one coming? It is here. Yes. And that's right. I put it on Instagram, but I did not put it on YouTube yet. If you look at this ad one more time, if we look at this ad once again, there was a mask on here that was pretty much like the other bloody pieces. I've never had one. I've seen copies out there, and they're freaking awesome. They are a badass 80s Halloween mask. They're gory. They're scary. Which one is it? Which one? Yes, that's right. Rotted Vampire is here, folks. Right here. I finally scored one. Man, this was a very hard mask for me to acquire. I wasn't looking for it, you know, for years and years and years, but I've been searching for one for at least 2 years now. Never seen any pop up. And my buddy that sold me the other two really rare props says, oh, by the way, of course, I've got a Rotted Vampire. I know you want one. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And he sure as shit did. I go, dude, what else you got? He doesn't have too much more. But my God, he's got some of the pieces that I have been trying to track down for quite some time. Look at this thing. What a cool mask. And the thing about this copy is it's gorgeous. Amazing paint, amazing detail, lots of color, you know, on the putrid flesh. But, in storage all these years, his hair really got matted down. And you can see like bald patches. He's not really missing hair. I think it just all flattened out down so bad that he looks kind of funky now. That original photo, though, look at, he's got the cool vampire hair. He looks like, oh God, he looks like, what's that actor's name? George, from the 80s with the gray hair like that. Anyway, so that's that, guys. What do you think of this episode? I know a lot of you were really rooting for me on getting this Karloff. Good friends of mine, good friends in the hobby were saying, man, I hope you get it. I hope you get it. I hope it doesn't just hit eBay and we never see it again. You know, we hope you get it. We hope you fix it up. And I told James, I said, I will show you every step of the way. Whatever I do with this mask, I'm going to share the photos with him and YouTube and all that. And he definitely wants to see what happens with it. It's not going to like have this crazy makeover. It's going to go through some steps to really preserve it for a long time. So that's that, guys. 3 amazing pieces tonight on this quick episode. Maskfest is coming up quick. Ohio, yes. Cincinnati. I will be there. Me and Carlos are driving out together. We're going to be out there on Thursday night, a day early. And I won't be displaying this year, like I said. But I will be running around like a maniac trying to buy cool shit. And if you can't find me, go ask Devil's Workshop to text me. Pete, go up to Pete and say, hey, I want to meet Rudy. Can you text him? Or, hey, I want to go break his legs. Where's he at? No, just, yeah, if you want to meet me down there at the show and you can't, I'm not putting my phone number on the screen. Just go to find Pete and say, hey, someone at the booth here wants to meet you or something, and I'll come over there. So I know, because there's a lot of you out there I would love to say hi to. So that's that. And before you know it, Halloween is coming. It's September 1st today. And I know I've talked about this many times about doing another 31 days of October where every single night I do a freaking, I don't know how I even pulled that off. A video every night for 31 days. I'm going to be doing some traveling in October, so it's impossible for me to do a full 31 days. But I will guarantee you this. I will jam Halloween masks down your throat as much as I possibly can throughout the month of October, okay? Vintage masks, foam filling videos, everything we could possibly fit into the month of October I will do. If I didn't have to travel, you know, it would be a different story. We will do it again someday, the 31 days. But October 18th, I think, I'll be at Scarefest with the CUDA, with the Phantasm CUDA. Me and Don Coscarelli again will be there with the cast of the film. So that's, you know, I can't not do that kind of stuff. And that's that. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you soon.